Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the book set Completionist. My name is Tom. Today I've got two science fiction novels to review. One good, one not so good. And I've got this tower of books. Although looks might be deceiving, this is not as big of a set as it appears. Why not? Well, I'll tell you about it. First, what is it? Science fiction. Yeah? This is actually a trilogy plus a collection of short stories plus a handbook. Right, a handbook. What trilogy would require a handbook? Especially considering that that handbook was written after said trilogy. These books were published between the years 1996 and 2000. They were written by a British author by the name of Peter F. Hamilton. Yes, well, fans of the genre might recognize that name. I've got lots of his books, never read any of them yet, but okay. There's always time for that later, isn't there? Okay. This is a set called Night's Dawn, and the reason why there are way more books than what a trilogy might suggest, even with that short story collection and a handbook, that would make 5. This is more than 5, but this is part 1, and this is part 1 too. It's just split up into 2 volumes, and the same goes with this part 2. That's also part 2. Part 3 is just 1 volume. And this is the short story collection and the handbook. What am I talking about? Why don't I just show you? Here we go. Oh, it's pretty heavy, but we'll get there eventually. Yes, look, there it is. Okay. The Neutronium Alchemist is actually book 2. I put this at the bottom because it's big. I think this one is part 1. The Reality Dysfunction. And then split up into 2 pieces. Here, part 1, Emergence, part 2, Expansion. Then part 2 is this one. Split up again in part 1, Consolidation, and part 2, Conflict. The Naked God is part 3, A Second Chance at Eden is the short story collection, and the Confederation Handbook. Yeah, like when are you supposed to read a handbook? Are you supposed to read it before you start so that you know everything that's in this set, or is it supposed to be read after? But then you've already finished the story, so what good is then reading about the facts of spaceships, of planets, of characters? Okay, I guess characters you shouldn't read about before you start a series. But, you know, star systems, technology, certain events of the past, I don't know if that's all relevant before reading a story. So, I don't know. I guess I'll read it afterwards. When I read it at all. Okay, let's take a closer look, see if there's anything cool to look at. Right, here we go. Peter F. Hamilton's The Reality Dysfunction, Part 1 of the Night's Dawn trilogy. Nice cover art. There, Night's Dawn. And Peter Hamilton is Britain's #1 science fiction writer, apparently. Now, as you see, this is a pretty bulky thing to handle, so perhaps that's why some clever people imagine that splitting it up into 2 might be practical. So, part 1, Emergence, has the same cover as this one. And part 2, Expansion, is just a mirror image. So yeah, probably a little bit more handleable. Oh, that's old. Look at this. Back in the day, when books were still $3.50, or was it $8.50 or $5? I'm not sure, but a lot cheaper than nowadays. Then we've got part 2, the Neutronium Alchemist. I managed to get it in this even bulkier volume. Yeah, there are no maps, but there's a timeline, if that helps. Hamilton did a really good job, I guess, at making a massive universe where things have happened over centuries, millennia. This too has been split up into 2 parts: consolidation and conflict. Now, I'll probably read these 2. This is just a brick. Then, part 3 is called The Naked God. That looks cool. Some sort of bio-spaceship. It looks more like a dinosaur than a spaceship. But here, volume 3 in the Night's Dawn trilogy. Then we've got A Second Chance at Eden, which is a novella and stories from the Night's Dawn trilogy. Okay. In case you love the trilogy so much you want to see more. And then the aforementioned Confederation Handbook, a vital guide to the Night's Dawn trilogy, but this was published way after, in 2000, while the last part, I think, was from 1999 in the trilogy. So when people read the initial trilogy in the 90s, they have already finished it when this was finally published. So if it's so vital, then why was it published afterwards and not before? It doesn't make sense. Okay, what there aren't. Then, okay, review time. I'll start with a good one. Yes, Michael Moorcock wrote a book in 1966 called The Shores of Death. The cover has nothing at all to do with the story. I was waiting for that monster to appear, but it never did, because it's not there. So why is it on the cover? That's a good question. Probably to lure in expecting readers, and okay, doesn't that look cool? It does, but if it's not there, it's only kind of like cheating the reader. No? Yes? Anyway, it doesn't matter because the book is pretty fun. What is it about? In a world, in the future, aliens have visited our planet, not with good intentions. They have ravaged the planet. They have taken resources and moved away, leaving us basically to die. Why? Because the aliens made the Earth stop spinning. Yes. One half of the Earth is in eternal darkness, eternal night, while the other half is in daylight, never seeing nighttime. There are 2 areas in between, like morning and evening, but the Earth doesn't spin. Okay. Naturally, everything on the dark side has died, and so everything now lives on the bright side of the planet. And the people have, for some reason, expanded their lives somehow. They have become twice as, well, their lives have now become twice as long, I should say it like that. And as a negative side effect, maybe because of an exposure to excessive solar radiation, everybody now is infertile, barren, unable to reproduce. So the human race is doomed. Yes. As the population has decreased immensely, there are now only, I don't know how many, but not many people left on Earth. Society has stopped functioning as we know it. Cities have ceased to exist. Money is no longer there. We're just basically doing bartering, I guess. But people are happy. They're wealthy, they are prosperous, just a few that are left. They're living in isolated houses that they can lift up and move anywhere else if they wish to do so. There is a little bit of government left what is it? A council of elders or smart people who sort of try to make things go the right way. The main character is, well, the former chairman of that council. He decided to disband it because nobody cares really. And he then tries to focus on his goal, which is to find a scientist who used to be alive back in the past who might have the answer to eternal life. The main character wants that. Now, the event that puts stuff in motion is when a group of cultists appear. They feel that the aliens really came for a reason, to sort of protest against everything that is human, that is artificial, that is technology. And these cultists, these members of this cult, they start hating everything that's not natural. And so they start burning people's homes and harassing people for using technology. And for a while, there's nobody to oppose them. There's no police. So there seems to be disorder. That then sparks the creation of a vigilante group who takes it upon themselves to oppose this cult and fight them. Now, there are no weapons, so they need to invent them, and they come up with a sword. Yeah, swords are then their weapons of choice. The leader of this group of vigilantes is the former friend of the main character. The main character has a love interest. This love interest chooses the main character and does not choose the other guy. And this other guy is now sort of consumed by jealousy, maybe revenge. It plays a part in his decision making, and he becomes this authoritarian figure, dictator kind of style guy. And he takes advantage of the lack of any sort of real authority on the planet. So he takes power. He starts repressing others. He starts, just for the fun of it, arresting people for supposedly having ties with that cult without any evidence whatsoever. But he says it too, like, I don't care. I have that power now. I can do whatever I want. Who are you to oppose me? I actually challenge you. I challenge you to fight back. Can you? Well, for a while, the main character doesn't really want to. He hides himself and his girlfriend in his ancestral house in the Twilight Zone. And there he sort of ignores everything that's going on until he gets that urge again. He wants to go after that scientist. So that's kind of it. He meets the scientist and something crazy happens at the end. Yeah, crazy indeed. It's a crazy novel. Lots of weird stuff happens. Science fiction is probably not the right name for this. It's science fantasy. There's no real science involved. A lot of the things that happen don't make sense, but they're fun. And I would say, yeah, give it a try if you can see it, if you can find it somewhere. It's probably impossible to find. I got this by chance, never saw it again afterwards. So if you've managed to get a copy, consider yourself lucky and read it. It's fun. If you happen to come across this one, then ignore it. Don't read it. Leave it. Well, you know, probably all these old science fiction novels are pretty hard to come by here in Thailand where I live. And so, okay, if you're collecting them, then sure. But don't read it. This thing is falling apart. I had to fix it with tape just to be able to read it. It's almost like a museum piece. Well, maybe that's its only value now. Yeah. This is A.E. van Vogt, The House That Stood Still, written in 1950. And this one is an odd one, very strange, very confusing story. It's about a lawyer who gets a new client who might be an immortal alien. He also meets a woman who might also be an alien, also immortal. And this woman tells him that there's something very bad about to happen. Atomic war is a threat, and she has to do something to stop it, and she needs his help. Then there is the titular house that stood still. This house is in fact a secret space. No, it's not a spaceship. It's built by aliens. With the help of alien technology, they managed to build a Mayan-style house in California, which grants its inhabitants eternal life. Something they did with the marble, something like atomic showering of something that made its residents forever lasting. Yeah. Now, then there is murder taking place. There are people wearing masks to impersonate others. It's all pretty convoluted. There seems to be a mystery story in here. The author probably had that very clearly in his mind and expected then the reader to just follow everything that happens, but it's pretty hard to do so. Main character is supposed to be just normal, regular guy, but he is not behaving in that way. He, it almost feels like the character knows that he's part of this mystery, that he's part of a novel, and he responds in that same way. Like everything that he gets told, everything that happens to him, he just says, okay, sure. Secret aliens, secret societies of ancient beings living in our planet, spaceships that take me anywhere. It all happens in some way or another, but it just feels like that's like regular everyday activities. So character not very strong. A lot of stuff happens that is pretty hard to follow. You would have to make a chart putting every character in there and their ties and their connections to one another. And it just isn't very fun. Also here, 1950, it does show, it feels dated, it feels just not of this time. Of course, it's not of this time, but the previous one was fine, right? That was written in the 60s. It doesn't really show. This one, it just takes all the 1950s mentalities, women and men and their relationships. It's all very, yeah, like like the woman, for example, she is just basically a lust object. Doesn't really, well, she's the main character and she's an alien, but her behavior is just like a woman, and the man is in love with her and just does everything that she asks because he will get sex in return. Yeah, I don't know. Is that 50s mentalities? Maybe it's more like the 60s, but in that sense. Well, anyway, the story is just confusing, and I checked out at times, like what's going on. I would have to pay way more attention than I would just casually reading a novel. It's otherwise not feasible to get the story and enjoy it. You would need to like study this, then get it. But I don't want to do that. So I imagine you don't either. So just skip this one if you have it. Just appreciate maybe the cover. It looks groovy there. Nice alien girl. The cover is the best part of the book. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.